I have a dream. So the power of storytelling, and then also the power of fun. You just got to enjoy this stuff. I mean, it's just politics is a gruesome exercise and an unnatural experience. I got to tell you, to run for office, but you've got to make it fun. You've got to unleash the fun that is actually in front of you. And then I learned another thing, and that is something Fred always said: you can't have a mass movement without the masses. Seems kind of commonsensical, but we as liberals and progressives up in Washington had forgotten that. I was still in Washington, D.C. I spent 10 years up there. And we were very serious about passing legislation and demanding that Congress do this and that and the president do it. But we had no real power because we were using the power of senators who were already there. We weren't connected back to the grassroots, which is where our power actually is. Power does not come from Washington. It comes from outside, out here, in places like right here in San Marcos in central Texas generally. And you've got to rally that power to bring it inside. Again, growing up in Denison, Texas, I was a small guy, but so I learned early on you should never hit a man with glasses. You should use something much heavier. And the heavy weight that we have is that power of the people. And then I came back to Texas after much to our astonishment. Fred did not win the presidency, and took over from Molly Ivins and Kate Northcott as editor of the Texas Observer. And in my very first column of my Observer, I said, "You're in for a heavy dose of populism," right at the top. "The central fact of economic and political power in Texas is that too few people control all the money and power, leaving the rest of us with very little of either. That boils down to corporate power, and it begs for journalistic attention." This was not being reported at the time in Texas, 1977, 78, 79. The proper symbol of Texas today is not the armadillo, the bluebonnet, or the pickup truck, but the pharaonic steel and glass corporate headquarters that dominate our lives as surely as they dominate the skylines of our major cities. And so we did that for 2.5 years at the Observer, reporting on bank holding companies, reporting on the evolving farm tractorcade movement. Weren't getting press anywhere else, so we covered them. People who did not think that they were liberals either, did not think that they were progressives, thought they were conservative, but in fact they were populists and willing to rebel against this agribusiness middleman power that was crushing them and the bank power charging outrageous interest rates that was crushing them. And so did that for 2.5 years, and then wrote my last column, which concluded, "Sometimes writing about the bastards is not enough." And so I then made the only downward career move you can make from journalism, which was to go into politics. Ran an all-out populist campaign, and much to the amusement of the people of Texas, ended up winning. And then the real work began. Can you govern as a populist? We did put a populist coalition together: farmers, workers, labor unions, environmentalists, consumers, etc., rural, urban. We made it. We got there. But then what are you going to do? And sure enough, as soon as I got elected, these lobbyists started coming up to me, and one of them particularly was lobbyists of the Farm Bureau, which, despite the name farm, has nothing to do with farm at all. It's an insurance and chemical conglomerate. Its biggest membership in Texas, for example, is in Houston. Give you a clue. So this lobbyist came up, and he was a particularly smarmy guy, and he said, "Well, Hightower, all right, you got elected, but if you'll just move over to the middle of the road, we'll get along." And so that afternoon, in fact, farmer friends of mine from out in the Panhandle were in to visit, and I told them about this guy's visit. And this one, he said, "Hightower, don't worry about that." Said, "There's nothing in the middle of the road but yellow stripes and dead armadillos. You know, you need to get over here with your friends, and let's do something together." And so we did. And one of the best things we did was to foster what I call the upchuck rebellion. DeMarco and our latest book, Swim Against the Current, Even the Dead Fish Can Go with the Flow. We specialize in titles. What this upchuck rebellion was, and bear in mind we're again back in the early and mid 1980s. The it was a grassroots, truly populist creation of a viable alternative to the industrialized, conglomeratized, and globalized food economy literally being shoved down our throats by corporate agribusiness and their puppets in government. And so we tried to do a different thing. And we brought people with different skills in to the Department of Agriculture and turned them loose. I said to them, I used a Franklin Roosevelt phrase. In 1933, Franklin Roosevelt took office and he said, do something. If it works, do it some more. If it doesn't work, do something else. So that was my advice. And luckily we had smart people. DeMarco headed she was Assistant Commissioner for Marketing and Agriculture Development. And we launched these marketing initiatives. Farmers markets. At the time, there were no farmers markets in Texas. There had been forever, of course, but they'd all been driven out by supermarkets. And in fact, the Dallas News, when I ran, I was campaigning on farmers markets, among other things. And Dallas News said, if people wanted farmers markets, the free enterprise system would have created farmers markets. This is ridiculous. But we brought a staff in that knew how to organize farmers markets. They went out to the country and they found people, farmers, consumers, local governments, etc., who wanted farmers markets. And so we provided the expertise that allowed them to establish them. We created more than 100 farmers markets in a short period of time there. And now there are hundreds of farmers markets. There are about 10 in Austin, Texas, for example. DeMarco helped to establish, brought, again, expertise in who could do marketing co-ops to sell directly to supermarkets for small farmers, minority farmers as well. Sell directly to restaurants, just as we have experience right here with the Cool Mint Cafe. They buy locally from farmers directly. We helped them sell directly into the international market. You don't have to be a conglomerate to sell in the international market if people have the tools to make it happen. We help move them into new crops, East Texas blueberries. We help promote Texas wine, going to San Francisco and New York and saying it's not all Chateau Bubba, we got some good stuff here. and giving them tastes of it, helping move it along. Well, we created a populist alternative to laissez fairyland economics or to simple government ownership. Our philosophy boiled down to something I heard from Fred Harris, and it was that the free enterprise. But the free in free enterprise is not an adjective, it's a verb. You've got to free up the enterprise of people. These are enterprising folks all across the state, but they can't get into the market because the market's been locked up. And so that was our role. The government didn't own anything, it didn't run anything, it just turned people loose, and it worked. In Texas and across the country, an organic, local, sustainable food economy that Carolyn Mugar was talking about this afternoon has been established, and it is steadily, inexorably expanding. No corporation did this. No government did this. The people themselves did it. Local farmers, consumers, food activists, chefs, agitators, saying we're fed up and we need another way. And we're going to find it. We'll create another way ourselves. They did it against the opposition of the Extension Service and et cetera. John Dromgoole is here with Jane, the great natural gardener in Austin, a voice for sensible and sane environmentalism. Pioneer in the organic movement, and Dromgoole says that those who say it can't be done should not interrupt those who are doing it. And those were the good folks we were able to work with. Of course, I did lose my office, thanks to Karl Rove, but what the hell. As I said at the time, at the end of 2 terms as Ag Commissioner, in Texas politics, one day you're a peacock and the next day you're a feather duster. Doesn't always last. But in fact, of course, I didn't really lose anything. I kept my populist principles, and I even kept running, not for office, but now I'm running my mouth all over the country, spreading this populist, as our sign in the other room says, they're spreading populist revelation and redemption right here. Come on in, got it. That's a sign in front of my office in Austin. We have this living spirit of populism right here in this room in the form of Dromgoole. We've got the Arnowski family over here. Wave at us, Arnowski. They're great. They produce the flowers that are here today. They're an example. They were over in Brenham and over in that area and trying to get Texas A&M to work with them. Extension Service will help us. We're going to grow flowers in Texas. Oh, no, you're not. You can't grow flowers in Texas. It's too hot here. And you can't compete with Columbia. They're ship flowers in here by their airplane full. You can't compete. Well, they're right down there at Blanco just producing fields full of just the most gorgeous flowers all season long that you've ever seen. You can get them at Central Market now, or better yet, go to their farm stand in Blanco. Visit them. They're a fabulous family. This is what populism is all about. The Cool Mint Cafe again, St. Arnold, Co-op Radio is going to be broadcasting this later on in Austin, a cooperative radio station. I have just become a brewery owner because it's not my brewery, but it is a cooperative brewery called Black Star being built in Austin, Texas. I'm a co-op member, and you should be too. Own your own brewery. What's wrong with that? Well, all across the country, ordinary Americans are just doing the most extraordinary things. They're defying the corporate order, rejecting the conventional wisdom and the contrived wisdom. They're creating a brighter future for the common good based on America's fundamental populist vision: economic fairness, social justice, equal opportunity for all people. That's what we stand for. That's what Americans stand for. The American people believe in these values, but they too rarely hear them expressed. It's certainly not in politics, in the media, in schools, the workplace, and damn not sure from the Palins and the Perrys. And that's our challenge, not to create a progressive movement. It's already out there. In politics, in business, in healthcare, in religion. We wrote up a bunch of them in this book. And folks are out there making it happen. But our chore is not to create it, but to connect it. To create a politics that affirms the values and then connect people to each other so that they become a movement. Right now we got good farmers, we got breweries, we got political activists, we got education reformers, we got all these, but we're not together. We don't even know each other. We don't work together. So we've got to find a way to come together. I think of it in terms of a great little hardware store near my home in the south side of Austin, Old Torf Street over there. There's a place called Harold's Hardware. Great little joint. Some of you have been there. It's not as big as this room right here, but it's a great place. You can go in and you don't have to buy the whole pack of nails. They'll sell you one. I need 2 nails. Okay. They'll work with you. Well, what are you trying to do? Well, I'm going to build a lectern. Well, let's pencil it out here and see what you need. They'll loan you a tool. You can take a tool home and bring it back. And the slogan at Harold's Hardware is, "Together we can do it yourself." Now that's got to be our slogan, doesn't it? Because we can't do it ourselves. But together we can do anything. We can build a new economy. We can build an alternative to the corporate domination of our environment and our economy and our energy sources and our lives and our government, our culture. We can create something new, but we've got to join together and find ways to get together. And I thank the Wittliff Center for helping us get together today. It's not just the good fortune of a handful of rich people that matters in the big scheme of things, or even really in the small scheme of things. Rather, it's the whole country, the community, the common good that matters. And that's what populism is. Thank you. Shout it out.